All right. Ooh. Hello, everyone. Welcome to One Shot Mondays. Today is our one shot building adventure over the course of an hour. We want to do our best to build a one shot adventure based on the feedback, the prompt that I got yesterday from our guest, Verity. And we're going to muck about for about an hour and try to come up with something. Now, the hook or the suggestion that Verity gave us was really good. I kind of want to dig into it, but I'm not exactly sure what it's going to look like or what we're going to do with it. So, get ready for a little bit of who knows what today. I'm so unsure where we're going to end with this. But I want to do it justice, and I think it's really good. So let's give it a chance. I know we usually start at noon. I want to give them a chance, people a chance to connect just to make sure they're getting online. I'm gonna be asking chat for a bunch of suggestions. All right. Well, anyway, boom, boom, boom. I hope everybody had a good weekend, and your week looks super cool, super awesome. All those things. I posted in my Discord that we've gone live now, a bit early today. Because I'm not sure. Actually, I'm not sure that the hour will be enough, or the hour might be too much because I don't know. I don't know. We're gonna do our best. Wanna to pitch in some ideas? Okay, cool. There, I've done enough shilling. Now we can get to it. Cool. So today's suggestion came in from our guest on Sundays, our interview at GMD on Sundays, and it's such a great suggestion that I want to try to do it justice, and I really hope that people in chat can give some suggestions just to make sure that we do it right. So here's the prompt from Verity, and what she did is she pulled from a real life news source, something that happened. Let's not say it's recent, events. That's fine. So there's a town in the UK called Dunwich. Dunwich. I did a tiny bit of research here, and I'm gonna bring it up on stream. This guy, Dunwich. I'm actually not sure how you. Is this the pronunciation guy? Yeah. Okay. So, cut, Dunwich. Yeah, Dunwich. So you don't say the W. So Dunwich was a town that sunk. All right, English majors, help me out. It's a town that sank some time ago to the bottom of the sea after a number of storms. It used to be this great big harbor, as I've been reading, and after storm after storm, catastrophe after catastrophe, eventually most of the village sank under the sea. And there's this great myth or legend about it that surrounds the town, which is that during storms, you can still hear the church bells pealing underwater or in the distance, which is really cool. It's very thematic, and it sounds like there's a bunch of stuff that we can lean into here. So that's great. That's a great starting point. So what do we do with that? Not easy. There's a lot we can do, and the intent here is to build a one shot. So this one shot can be like a standalone adventure, or it can be something that ties into a greater campaign as like a mini arc to give characters a break, or it could be something that is just simply there, a side quest. It could be something that grows into something bigger. You could tie it into like the greater storyline if you want a MacGuffin to be hidden there. So we can go a ton of different ways with this prompt. So one of the ideas, so I think initially what I wanted to do is I thought about it in one or two different ways. Is this something that happened recently in the Sword Coast, Eberron, Mystara, wherever we might happen to be? Or is this something that happened a long time ago? So if it's something that happened recently, it's going to draw a lot of eyes. Adventurers need to go check it out. I kind of like the idea. So let's explore both ideas and let's see if we can come up with a storyline that fits either suppositions that we might have. So if this happened a long time ago, or some amount of time ago, what is the need now all of a sudden for adventurers to show up and sort of fix the situation? What is it that's so urgent? What's the call to action that we would need to put in here so that it justifies the players being in that location and going in to deal with the situation? Right? Like, what is it that all of a sudden something changed so dramatically that we needed that to be dealt with? So I thought, as is all the rage these days, we can say that there's a town nearby, and they want to build a lighthouse on the coast. This is on the coast, and they're like, all right, listen, a bunch of ships are trying to get here. There's a bunch of reefs, all this weirdness around, this town that is ripe with whatever mythology. Let's hire a band of adventurers. Let's send out a call to the local guild, to the job postings. We need people who can go and take care of this business, clear out whatever merfolk, pirates, whatever is doing this nonsense, and that way we can build our lighthouse. Alright, that seems pretty reasonable. We can have that being a town nearby that wants this area cleared of whatever mystery, and then now we can get our lighthouse going. Because we've tried to send, maybe we've tried to build a lighthouse that just doesn't work out, or people are spooked easily, they run away. Nothing dramatic has happened yet, but it's just sort of like, can we please get to the bottom of this mystery? Sort of an HOA, no nonsense, I really want to deal with this and get, let's get adventurers to clean out house. Maybe it's goblins, maybe it's Sahu again, whatever it is. Get them the hell out of there. We can build our lighthouse. I think that's a decent hook. That's a decent, reasonable adventure quest. Here's money. Go clear out the riffraff, and we'll move on from our lives there. If this is something more recent, the town was there up until a fortnight ago, and it's disappeared, and we literally have no idea what happened. It's a bit more mysterious, and you can do other things with that. It could be a recent invasion. It could be a beast has latched onto the side of the cliff and brought the village down. What it doesn't do, though, I mean, it's interesting in and of itself, and I think it might be for a different time. I think I want to go with the first one, and I'll explain why. When Verity suggested it, she said, it's been long enough that there's a legend and mystery that's been built around it, especially around the churches. And in real life Dunwich, as I understand, as I was reading sort of through this wiki to get ready for this, it talks about this being like a big harbor for the original seat of the Anglo-Saxons bishops of the Kingdom of East Anglia. So this place was rife with churches and abbeys, and it's a great center of trade apparently for some time, and yeah. And the way she described it, also on the beach locally after it sunk. If somebody help me out, is it sank? Is it sunk? I have no clue, and I feel incredibly dumb for not knowing. After it sank, after it has sunk, after it was sunken, or English, you make no sense. So after this town disappeared, apparently on the beach you can see all these graves that are on the sandy beach that are being crashed on by the waves. So I like the idea that this town has been gone for more than a minute, right? This is not a town that's just disappeared. This is a town that has disappeared 50 years ago, 100 years ago, maybe past the memory of whatever local human or short-lived population might be, right? The second we throw in elves in this mess, if we're not a near human settlement, then, they would remember long enough. So it might be longer than that, some amount of time ago. Let's call it 100 years ago, just for whatever reason. Okay, so now, because we're the GM, we get to decide, why did this town sink? And why is it that every time there's a storm, or every once in a while, the bells peal, and the townsfolk hear the bells and they get spooked, or something happens? Why do, when ships go by there is, reefs that pop up, or they disappear, very Bermuda Triangle sort of situation, to the point where people are trying to actively avoid going to that. Sailors are trying to avoid it, and it's impacting trade, so on and so forth. So let's try to come up with some ideas. I'm open to suggestions, by the way. This is where I go to chat and say, well, you guys have any ideas? I have a couple. I guess we can start elaborating sort of a mini story. And because I just recently watched the show, spoilers alert, if anybody, WandaVision, I think I like the idea of something like that. And what I mean by like that, there's very evocative imagery I just gave you guys. Something like that. Something like WandaVision, where... Okay, let me pitch this story to you, see what you guys think. Long ago, 100 years ago, long ago, there was a man, and we'll have to come up with a name for him, who was madly in love with this woman. And maybe she felt really ill. Maybe something bad happened. Maybe he wasn't, whoever he's in love with, something happened. And he needed to find a way to gain enough power to prevent her death, his death, whatever, their demise, their love interest's death. Perhaps what the man did, or the one, whatever the protagonist is going to be in the story, they made a deal with a jinn, a genie, a merid, somebody, and maybe what they wished for was for the ability to spend life eternal with this person, right? Okay, let's pretend that this is their story. Classic love story. I want to spend the rest of my life with them thinking, I got this. Or I want them to be cured, or I want them, whatever. And what the jinn does, because, jinns can be, or genies can be evil. Not just like, here's your wish. Not all of them are Aladdin, Aladdin's genie. By and large, historically, genies are kind of, I think the proper term is dickwads. So we have Dickwad the genie, who's like, I'm going to play a trick on this guy because I'm a giant ball of douche. They sink the whole town, killing everybody along with it. The man now is in charge of this town that sits at the bottom of the ocean, or the sea, full of undead spirits. The town to them looks completely normal. And the reason they have to use the bell is every time that the town or some manner of thing threatens it, they use the bell, or he uses the bell, the spirit uses the bell, the man, the male hag. What's a male hag, by the way? Why are they all female? Is there such a thing as a male hag? Cat? Is that a thing? A male hag? A haggis? Is that okay, we're gonna call it Haggis the Menace. Alright, let's just write this down somewhere. Haggis the Menace is totally our male hag. Haggis the Menace. I love it. Okay, cool. So Haggis the Menace needs to use the church bells as a spell focus, maybe to keep the town there intact so he can spend life with his love. Cool, and doing that really messes with the ships above, and that's what they hear at night or whenever the storms roll in. That's not a bad story, right? So, from the player's point of view, what does that do? So the Haggis the Menace, I don't know that we're going to stick with that name, but Haggis the Menace has the town, and he's sort of using the bells to keep the town alive, or unalived? Unlived? Alright, a lot of weird grammar rules today. So he's keeping the town unlive somehow with these church bells, and he doesn't want anybody coming in and messing up with his situation, right? So we're sort of like a mini WandaVision situation. He's in grief, and he's not necessarily a bad guy, right? Like, this is more interesting. He's a gray sort of figure. So Haggis the Menace is keeping this town going, and local villages are like, yeah, enough of this. We want to have trade. We want to have boats come in here. You're ruining the vibe. Please, heroes, go investigate. Cool. Does that story make sense? Cat is awful quiet today. Usually you guys are full of ideas and pizzazz and telling me how wrong I am. But, if nobody says anything, I'm going to assume that I'm just the rightest right that ever righted. Cool. So I'm gonna go with my story is amazing. Was trimming clip, what is the prompt? Okay, R, here's the prompt, I'll repeat it. The prompt is, I think it's in the title of the thing today. The prompt is, a town has sunk to the bottom of the sea, or to the bottom of the ocean, and during storms, you can still hear the church bells pealing, or echoing. So we've tried to develop 2 storylines. So far we got 1. If the town sank... so I'm happy you're here. So if the town sank or sunk, I don't know which one to use. I'm not sure, and I'm not going to, I'm just going to gut check this. If the town sank, we went to the theory that the town sank about 100 years ago, and it sank because a broken-hearted male hag, which we've dubbed Haggis the Menace, because I don't know what a male hag is called. So Haggis the Menace made a deal with a genie, a jinn, which we dubbed Dickwad the Djinn. So we've got Haggis the Menace and Dickwad the Djinn. We'll come up with better names later. And Dickwad the Djinn sank the whole town to the bottom of the ocean. And now it's an undead town, WandaVision style, where Haggis the Menace has to use the church bells to keep it up and going. And it does all kinds of crazy stuff. So from the point of the players, the town sank, the town was sunk. I think it's a possessive thing, maybe? Hi, wizard. So let's go with the idea that okay, so now if I'm the heroes, how do I make this interesting for the players? The players got contracted by the local other town nearby. So let's first of all, let's try to name like our, I'm not sure if our template's going to work very well today, but let's try anyway. Let's go our first bubble, where we're going to name the town. So I like let's base it on Dunwich, but let's not call it Dunwich because it's a bit on the nose. Let's use those letters and come up with a different town name. How about Wichund? Or Chundi? I don't know. Or Chun. Alright. One of these three. And chat can decide. I really don't much care. So the town underwater is Chundi. Oh no, Wizard, you're fine. This has nothing to do with what you guys are going to be doing this Saturday. Oh, I guess I could talk about that briefly. Anybody in chat who is also a Scotty and Wizard viewer. So right now, it's not a stream. It's just a fun thing that we're doing to play D&D together. But who knows? Who knows what the future might bring. But I'll be playing D&D, yes, with Scotty and Han and Wizard and my amazing spouse, and we're gonna have a blasty blast, and we'll see how it goes. So no, Wizard, this is not what we will be playing this coming Saturday. So they get hired by another town nearby. Well, let's call it. Okay, so all right. Initial location will be, how about Agat? And Agat is a nearby fishing town who wishes to build a lighthouse near where, let's go, Wichund used to be. The myths and legends surrounding that location make it hard to find crew to do it. Hence, job posting adventurers are required. Okay, that's a decent prompt. I think that's a decent storyline. And then let's keep building our story that we know about. So, the town of Wichund sank due to the actions of Haggis the Menace. But Haggis, we'll probably change the name at some point. Haggis did it. So Haggis, when he entered, okay, Haggis's love interest, let's call them, I don't know. Yeah, you guys are an endless fount of names. Otherwise, I will go to, you know what? I keep a file where I put like D&D names. I'm gonna tell you where I get a lot of these. Haggis changed his name. He was born Dennis. Dennis the Menace. So what I do is when I play, so I like to play a little bit of this little game nobody's ever heard of called Magic the Gathering. And when I play against people, sometimes if they have a cool username, I'll steal it and I make it an NPC in my D&D games. So I once played against somebody called Mizamir. That's a dope name, but I want it to be like a gender neutral name. How about Tarka? Tarka could be, or yeah, Tarka. Okay, let's do that. So Tarka was dying. Haggis entered into a deal with an evil, or with a djinn, or a genie, I think they might be in 5e. And his wish was, I wish to live forever with Tarka. Cool. In our home. Perfect. And here's what happened. Genie sank whole town, turning it into an undead underwater city where the spirits live to this day. And we're going to call this Mini WandaVision. Okay, cool. Senta, what is it? Is the name of the love interest in The Flying Dutchman. Okay, cool. You know what? Fine. Let's I'm not attached to Tarka. Let's go with Senta. Nice. So Senta can be, you know, depending on what you want. Male, female, it doesn't, like, you choose. So that's our initial location. So our initial location is, when we write this out, so this is a template that I've sort of evolved over time. You have an initial location in which you involve as many of the senses as possible, or senses. That'll be, you know, the sense of smell, sound, vision, feel. So the imagery that Verity gave us on Sunday was really evocative, right? This town that sank, these graveyards that still, or these gravestones that sit on the beach that sort of stick out partially out, and the water crashes against them, maybe half-broken buildings, clearly some, like, ancient church of whatever god you want to stick in there. And this could have been, in D&D terms, a great harbor city that would have had worship to many different deities. So you can tie that in there. So an additional tie-in that you could do for your players, if they want it, is on top of, like, this, if this is a mini arc for a larger campaign, easily enough what you could do is have an ancient shrine or church to one of the gods of the players, and the god could have sent the player there to cleanse the shrine, to cleanse the temple, to cleanse the church, which is a very typical sort of godlike quest to do, right? That could be like a side quest to really involve the players and have an extra hook if this is part of a mini arc or a larger campaign. But in terms of one shot, I think this makes sense. So initial location, we introduced the concept that the party was hired by the town of, whatever we call it, the town of, we'll call it New York. Okay, we'll change the name. So New York hired them. Did I come up with a name, or I don't even remember. Look how flimsy my memory is. A nearby fishing town, Agat. Okay, so Agat hired the people to go there and investigate. And the reason they have to go now is because the storm is coming soon in the next 2 days. Please go investigate now before the storm shows up and things get weird. And it's like, you know, half a day's ride away, something like that. So that they show up, and this is where we do our initial location description, right? We don't need to describe. I mean, you can do one of two things. You can have them arrive in Agat initially and sort of roleplay that sequence where they are in the guild hall, they are in the city town hall, they're meeting with the mayor or whoever you want them to do. What that could do for you, if you want to start there, is, so quick sidebar. When we talked about D&D yesterday with Verity, one of the things that she said she finds really cool is when a DM has, like, props or in-game, not necessarily props like physical props, but in-game lore or handouts, which kind of ties to the concept of the exploration pillar. Instead of saying you're walking, and you're walking some more, and you're done walking, which is really boring and not inspiring in the least. If you start them in that town, you could have a moment where a nearby old town crier or somebody tells them of a poem or a local legend and recites the poem or the song to them. We can try to come up with something like that. And when I post this to the subreddit Adventure a Week, I'll try to elaborate something there. Let's try to, hang on. Is there anything already written in real life from the town of Dunwich? There's gotta be, if there are legends around this. Look at this. Okay. By the lost town of Dunwich, the shore was washed away. They say you hear the church bell still as they toll beneath the waves. Okay, maybe we can work a little bit with this. We can come here. This is like a thought bubble. We can work with this. So first of all, we decided that the town is called Witchend. And then I don't know if we want to leave the rest. Alternatively, if you are confident in, like, your singing ability, here are 2 songs that come to mind that you can borrow the tune and the general theme from that really would fit this sort of gloomy That's a thing that people don't do enough. I occasionally do it. I don't have a singing voice. Let me just preface this. Like, you are not gonna have to deal with my singing. But sometimes I subject my players to it because it's kind of cool. And in real life, there's a lot of music and singing and tropes of like jesters or bards relaying histories that way, which is cool. But there are two songs that come to mind for tune. One is the one from World of Warcraft that came out from Jaina, that is oh, what's the name of that song? Warbringers, right? And the lyrics are really good for that actually, and the tune is really good, and we could probably play with it a little bit. Let's hang on. Oops. If anybody knows what I'm talking about, Jaina Warbringer. Yeah, that's the one. I was right. Okay, let's try to bring. Okay, cool. Take this. Can I do it on stream? Does that show up? Cool. There's a song. Beware, beware the daughter of the sea, beware, heard him cry. His words carried upon the ocean breeze as he sank beneath the tide. So I feel like there's probably something we can do with that tune and like sort of change the words around that might fit. This is the song that anyway. Right, that's that tune. Which could be really good. So I think we can do something with this and obviously change it around. A bard shows up. Hello, friends. I have a great song that's strangely relevant to what you're doing here. Oof! Jump into a song. Boom! The players are involved. That's pretty cool. That could be a good, decent introduction, right? It sets the tone. It sets the mood. That's not bad. Another song that comes to mind, or at least a tune that is sort of sad enough and fills that space pretty nicely, would be the one from Game of Thrones, the last season that should not be named. When spoilers alert, I guess, when Pod is singing, if anybody remembers that. How does that one go? Oh, let's bring up the lyrics of this. Oops. This is in the holes. Jenny, Ghosts, Game of Thrones. Yeah, lyrics. Jenny of Old Stones. Yeah, this, and the tune is really good. So we can, let me take some of this and we can maybe work with this. Again, I'll try to put this more elaborate. So keep that tune in mind, and we can certainly play. This is sort of a cool exploration pillar. Oops, making everybody dizzy. Idea of having like these songs or poems introduced. All right, we have our initial location. The call to action can either be, all right, you got to get going because there's a storm coming and we just paid you, so get a move on. Something as simple as that. Or I don't think we need anything more than that. Again, you've presented the situation, you've described to the players. If a player is, if it's a one shot, the players should jump in and want to do that. You've explained it to them. If they fight you on it, well, you know, maybe a fog rolls in and there's no other place to go. Maybe we can come up with something. If they choose to do nothing, we need to have something that reacts to them doing nothing. It could be that I don't know, just a weird thing. We can have either undead showing up. Undead spirits could be like a call to action. A dream sequence, something. So let's put this as an alternative, but presumably storm coming in, we paid you. How about the song that Pippin sings to Denethor? Yes. Oh, I don't remember how exactly that goes, but yes, that's also, yeah, exactly. Maybe the sound should be like a dull, like vibrating humming noise, and once if the players go underwater, it sounds more like a very clear bell in a natural way. Sure. Yeah. So all of these are great ideas, and we can borrow against all of it. The closer they get to the shore, maybe that sort of boom, very dull noise that they hear becomes much clearer once they get underwater. So here at the top of, before we go any further, GMs, if you're intending on running this, I would strongly suggest, and I will put that again in the post, brush up on your underwater fighting rules, underwater movement rules. What this is going to do, which is kind of cool, and we don't get to do that all too much sometimes with our fights. This is no longer just a 2D flat. You're going to have to think in 3 dimensions, right? Because as you're swimming down and up, it's gonna combat. What I'm trying to say is combat's going to become slower. Where normally we might put 1.5, 2 combat encounters, 1 short, 1 long. Maybe that's not the case here. Maybe one is a combat encounter and later there's like a social encounter that doesn't need to move up and down through space. So brush up on those rules for sure. This might actually, now that I think about it, while this is a cool prompt, just bear in mind this might not be I mean, you could, but it might be a little bit tricky for first-time D&D players. Just because if they're having to picture a space in 3D, whether it be on you know, Foundry, Fantasy Grounds, whatever online platform you're using, it might be a little bit tricky for them to imagine that 3D space. I'm not saying you can't do it, I'm just saying, you know, consider that. So brush up on your rules, know how to, you know, if you want, not that it really matters, but if you want to know what weapons work underwater, which ones don't, know that stuff ahead of time. Also, if the party's not high level enough, okay, so this adventure may be suited to like a mid-level range party, 5 and up. I don't remember what level Breathe Underwater becomes available. Let's find that out. D&D Beyond! Where are you, D&D Beyond? Breathe. Water breathing is a 3rd level spell, which means it becomes available at level 5. And who has it? Okay. So make sure that somebody in the party has access to that spell. And if they don't, give them potions, have the town provide it. Let's not run into the issue where the players can't do the adventures because they don't have the right gear. Let's not make that a stumbling block. Let's not hide the fun stuff behind just a random arbitrary check. Give them the tools to be able to complete the mission. In this case, give them either a bottle, you know, the potions of bottled breath, a potion of water breathing. In any case of a pinch, there's also the cloaks they can wear that allow them to move and breathe underwater without any issue. So provide them those tools and just move on from there. They can breathe underwater, just assume that. If the characters can't do it themselves, and give the stuff that will allow them to do this. Okay, so if they don't, okay, let's assume that they choose to follow the action, and then we can revisit later if they choose not to. But let's pretend that the players are kind of going with it. So choice 1 is they go with it, and they want to go towards the witch hunt Dunwich situation. They arrive there. And what are we going to do? We need to describe the setting. So these are the washed out, these are the gravestones on the beach. Maybe already we can start putting some hints about what really happened there or some situation. So, okay. Nice little drops of lore we can put there. One of which could easily be that the gravestones that are there, some of them are overgrown with like mold or seaweed or whatever. And one of them is completely pristine and still in great shape. And that could be Senta's grave. We'd have to decide what is on the gravestone for it. My beloved. Technically she died. She might have died and then she was brought back to life as an undead spirit, right? By the Jinn. So we could have that. We could have either... It's the one gravestone that looks different than all the other gravestones. Right? Essentially. Either it's the one that's covered in and swirled with corals of magnificent colors and so on and so forth. Or... it's the one gravestone that is completely in pristine shape and you can still read the inscription on it. What would the inscription say, chat? What would it say? To my beloved, we will be reunited, something, maybe a part of a poem, right? What is the grave? Oops. What is the grave? Oh, come on, bro. Type in here. Gravestone of Circa. Ideas? Alright. My guiding... Ooh, I like that. My guiding bell. My guiding bell. Oh, that's so good. Cool. And then... Did Haggis the Menace... what's his name? What did we end up calling him? We didn't call him Haggis. No, we did call him Haggis. We legit have him. So Haggis. Does he sign his initials? Or his initials there? I like the idea of his initials being H, G, and then we can have an actual name. But Haggis definitely has that in there. Cool. A guiding bell. I mean, that's a play on words. It's not bad. It's a little bit less on the nose, right? I like that. I like that a lot. Alright, you know what? Yes. Players love this kind of stuff. Little, oh, he meant bell. It's a play on words. Oh, but I figured it out. Oh, my guiding value. I don't. Cool. So they arrive there. They investigate the area. Presumably, you can describe it to them. The half-broken things. In terms of exploration, so we have sort of those elements. A poem. Let's say they didn't find the poem, or they didn't hear the poem in town. Could we want to have the poem as like sort of written on the gravestone, and it you know, it talks about my guiding bell at the end, to my guiding bell? Because that, you know, I don't want to waste any preparation that you would do. Just have it there and sort of like set the tone, set the mood. I think that's kind of good. So I think I'll elaborate a little bit on the poem or the song. If we wrote a song, all right, let me put it this way. If as a GM you wrote a song and you want to sing it, you're going to find a spot to sing the damn song. All right, whether it be in town or they get into water and for no reason there's a bard, like an undead spirit bard that's down there. The spirits thinks that, you know, everything's hunky-dory maybe. Maybe as you swim down there you hear the dulcet tones of a lute underwater and you're going to sing that song and they're going to have to deal with it, and that's fine. Okay, so they arrive to the scene and there are all these gravestones. That one gravestone that hopefully you describe well enough to draw their attention. They can go investigate, take a look. Of course, if they choose to, like, let's spend the night or let's go do something else, so what could be nearby? The remnants of a ship that try to pass the area and, like, smashed up against the shore. That could be a choice. That could be, like, our next branch. So here's what we can do. We have, so choice one is investigating the, so what could they do? How do we provide a choice there to feel that it's not completely railroaded? They arrive to the site. There is maybe the remnants of a building. There's the remnants of a ship that got smashed up against the side. And maybe there's a storm rolling in early. They can go investigate either site. They can investigate both sites. And as the storm hits, they might hear the bell ringing. So those are choices. They're, you know, they're not like fundamentally super different choices, but they're choices. We can either dive in, we can do a little bit of an investigation as to what's happening. So what we would need to do here is offer a choice. So we can say choice one. All right, let's get it on these undead spirits for now as a call to action. I don't quite like it. So we can have a recent or a ship. What are they called? Like, I don't want to call it a ship skeleton, but basically a ship skeleton to investigate. And we'll talk about that in a second. The other one can be, there is the ruins or gravestone. Or let's say the ruins. All right, let's give 2 areas, and then there's also the storm is rolling in early, and here that can actually be the next step. So these are the 2 things they can investigate. If they investigate the ship, I would say this is a good place to have hints about what they might be facing beneath. What is it that's sinking the ships that are coming nearby here? What is pissing off Haggis the Menace? What kind of telltale signs would you see on a ship that's been attacked by undead spirits? Drowned soldiers or sailors, is that what they do? They grab them, they bring them underwater, and then just drown them and then run the ship against the reefs? It'd be as simple as that. What does that look like? Just a bunch of drowned sailors that, look a particular way, have a specific marking on them. Something that the players could figure out. This guy drowned before the ship sank, or this ship never sank, and they never went underwater. But why are they drowned? There's no sand on them. They're perfectly clean. You could give that hint. Like, it becomes a little bit of CSI detective work. Of like, what is special about these guys? So, okay, sure. We could do something like that. What else? What else could indicate that this is the work of undead spirits, and not Sahuagin, not pirates, not merfolk, not giant crabs or sharks. This is unnatural work, so the players kind of have an idea of what they're going to be running to later. What hint can we provide here? I'm gonna write down at least like maybe specific markings. So here, what did they find on the skeleton? They find drowned bodies. Actually, we can make this a fight, and there's a stat block called. Use that. Find it. What book are they from? The Drowned Ghosts of Saltmarsh. Yes. So these drowned individuals there. Yes. I'll mark that down. If zombies nail scratches, yeah, sure. But I think that maybe instead these are bodies that'll. So as they investigate, we can do the Drowned Ascetic Ghost of Saltmarsh stat block. I'll talk about later. Cool. Yeah. So scratch marks. If they do, what else? If they detect like undead, there's a strong aura of it. So if they disturb them at all, these guys come to life, and we can have a little fight, a little combat that's above water, just to be like, oh, we're on the right track. What other indications can we have here? Maybe. Ooh. So they're powered. How are these guys coming to life? Maybe it's Haggis. Anything that's within a certain region of Haggis the Menace comes to life. So they might have. Oh, I like this idea. Check this out. Okay. Alright, tell me if this is a good idea. The drowned come to life, and they all speak in one voice of memories or things that have happened here before, of the great pain and grief that they're feeling on behalf. So they're actually like a mouthpiece of Haggis. Maybe they're saying, go away, we don't want you here, this is holy ground, or whatever, right? Like some kind of mouthpiece they act as like, and it makes it really spooky. I like that. The scratch marks, and they can just speak for themselves. They're saying stuff, which is weird and gross. Scratch marks and the undead sailors can speak as one on behalf of Haggis. Or maybe they have memories that are not theirs. As they fight, they relate the information, right? I think that's a cool concept. I think I like that. Bound to water on the floor of the boat. Maybe HM power can only be influenced in the water. Maybe, yeah, sure. Maybe they are like partially in the water, so that we can change the scene a little bit, right? They're floating face down in the water. They look like they've been drowned. They're bloated. You know, you can lean sort of in that trope. They're a bit gross to look at. And then as you approach them and try to investigate the bodies further, they begin to talk, and they relate all that sort of goofy, gross stuff. I kind of like that, right? That's a cool idea. So having the undead speak and sort of relay the information for the story there. That's cool. I like it. We keep it. So that's if they investigate the ship. If they investigate the ruins, we can have... So here, again, I want to lean a lot into like the exploration sort of part of this. So in the ruins, could be the ruins of an old church. So pick a deity of one of your players' gods, maybe. Because then they'll be more inclined to want to go there if you want them to go to the ruins. And in the ruins, they can find... Okay, what if it's the ruins of an old church, and Haggis the Menace, the man hag who's behind all of this shenaniganry, left some information there. Maybe Haggis the Menace part of him feels really guilty about what's going on. Like, he's not completely... He's obviously a little bit insane. But Haggis the Menace is like, alright, in these ruins, I will offer a letter of apology or some kind of statement, something to prove that I'm not completely crazy, and I just want to spend, you know, WandaVision style time with my spouse that is dead, and that's the best way I can do it. May the gods forgive me. So here we can have pages of a diary, right? That would be the interesting thing in the ruins, to get your players more involved and reward them for investigating. So I can have here pages of a diary, or a letter that talks in some specificity about what happened here. Maybe not all of it. We don't want to give everything away, you know, in the first 35 minutes of the game, but we can. Like, we could tell them this is what's going on. And if you go investigate the ruins, you'll find the letter written by the hag that explains what's happening. And it's a plea of apology, or even worse, maybe the contrary. Maybe he curses the gods. Maybe, you know, you've done this to me, and I had no choice. You put me in this impossible situation, and now my love is an undead spirit at the bottom of the ocean that I have to spend eternity with. And how dare you, gods, you pieces of garbage. You're the worst. You're worse than anything else in life, or unlife. Cool, so some kind of hint, some kind of lore, some kind of exploration or reward. Do we want to have a spirit there that guards it? Maybe. But I think, you know, players might choose both, and we don't want to spend... We can. I mean, we can make it so that if they go to the ruins, the storm rolls in, they feel obligated to start... We need to get in there and see what's going on. Okay. So the next step, whatever they choose, whether it be the ship... I don't know, what's it called? The shipwreck. Why am I calling it a ship corpse? What the hell is wrong with me today? The ship corpse. Let's call it a ship corpse. Fine, deal. They can either investigate the ship corpse and run across the drown that will literally recite some fake memories to get them to go in the water, investigate the next step, or they can go to the ruins and find some diaries, some information that, you know, pushes them to keep investigating. Okay, the secret lies within the bells. We also have the gravestone that we've talked about, where if they investigate, they'll find the poem plus my guiding bell, which is a nice play on words. I like that. And they'll hopefully dive into the sea to figure out what's going on. Cool. So, we're now at the sort of... So if we've skipped the skirmish part of our template, that's why I'm saying the template may not work perfectly today. So we can have the skirmish that's tied to the skeleton stuff. The investigation, exploration can be tied to the ruins. But here, this is going to be... Like, if this is a one-shot, we need to have interesting locations and interesting NPCs that come into play. So call back to earlier, if we have... So again, if we've written a song and we want to use it, you know, to the tune of whether it's Pepin's thing, or the Game of Thrones thing, or the Jaina Warbringer song, or a poem, whatever you want, and you didn't get to use it, don't let it go to waste. As they go into the ocean and begin diving and see the outline or the cityscape, I don't want to call it like a... Anyway, they can start... I think we're good. OBS, what's going on, man? Alright, cool. So, what were we? I don't remember what the hell we were saying. Cool, so they investigate. We're in the investigation exploration dungeon time. We can have NPCs be in there, right? So we can certainly include... So here's our call to action, our secondary call to action. So we have... Yeah, we're making a story. It's working. At the expo. Bon Dieu de bonsoir. This is driving me nuts. The storm is rolling in. We get going. They have the thing. They start investigating. So I found a map that I liked on this person's DeviantArt. Zetnicotel. So credit where credit is due. Zetnicotel. You could use this map. I kind of like it. I think it fits. It's an underwater city. Sunken. It sank. Whatever the right grammar is. And did I disconnect again? No, I think we're good. All right. I don't know what's happening with Twitch today. It keeps acting really funny. Cool. So we have our map, and we can have points of interest here, right? Like they can, you know, as you float in, as you swim downwards, we can have. So again, to get around, mechanically speaking, if they can't see in the water, it's supposed to be dark. There's a storm rolling in. So as soon as the storm rolls in, they could hear the sound that we described earlier, right? The sort of dull noise that sort of moves the earth. It feels like a slight earthquake with a dull tone to it. And if they walk in the water at that moment, then the bell becomes much more evident, right? The bell is pealing, is striking, and it is making that noise. So I like that idea. Why did it? So They come into the water. Let's add more description. There's the bells going, and they come from deeper in the sea. They're swimming downwards. Let's add, all right, to get around the mechanics of not being able to see, it could simply be bioluminescent algae and life that's down here. Very easily, right? Like, so that they're not struggling with dark vision issues. Again, depending on how much you want to challenge your players, you can have dark vision problems. They can't see past a certain amount of distance. I'm not always a huge fan, especially in a one-shot that complicated for no reason. Because we want to make sure we get through the arc. If this is tied to a longer campaign or a mini arc, you know, everything I'm doing here is very condensed in terms of getting it to a one-shot, but you can expand it as much as you like, right? The encounters above water can be something else. At the beginning of when they get to the town, sort of elaborating on why is the lighthouse not being built? What has happened? Have you sent previous crews? What happened to them? Like, you can do a whole lot more around there, but in this case, we're assuming one-shot. They're coming in. Let's make it bioluminescent. They can see clearly. And they see quite literally, again, I'm going to lean on that WandaVision idea. There's a town that's alive. And it has ghosts that are walking by that are seemingly just going on day to day. They're having conversations. There's maybe an inn. There's a church in the distance. Let's say that there's that one church with a massive bell there. And as they're talking to the townsfolk, this can be sort of an exploration / investigation moment, right? The dungeon crawl. They're going to talk to undead. The undead can talk to them and tell them, what a beautiful day. You know, let's have them not realize that they're dead and this is just normal day-to-day life. Now, is there a way to, again, make it so that for a split moment it's their true selves? Can we have that hint of the grief that the man Haggis has that is causing this to stay alive? Right? Can we do that? Probably. Mechanically, how do we do that? Is it a persuasion roll? Is it like a dispel magic? Is it a turn undead? Is it a bless? Is it something? We need to have some mechanical way or role-playing or storytelling way to allow them to break that control just for a split second, for like a 6-second gap, and then the NPC relays the information. We can have bards that are telling stories. You can have obvious signs of this has, you know, sank a long time ago. But I think the concept is cool. And here you can do whatever you want, a number of NPCs. And if there has been no fight and you feel like breaking the, not monotony, but the pacing, easily enough, there could be ghost guards that come that are driven by Haggis as a system of defense that engage the intruders, right? The heroes that have come here to sort of, what the hell is going on, easily could engage with them. It could be more drowned sailors, it could be undead sailors, it could be the guards of the City Watch, the undead City Watch, right, that is defending this town at the behest of Haggis. And there's a little fight, doesn't have to be very long, but you can introduce to them the 3D space before we get to the bigger fight later. So they investigate town. So where are we in our template? Again, I'm not sure how well the template's going to work, but this could be here. So investigation is NPCs, we can have bards, spending time as if it were their real lives. Ability to break the control for a moment to reveal the true nature of this area. It's all, so again, I'm going to write WandaVision. It's all because of his grief and maybe the deal he made with the djinn that really ruined everything. But he's making the best of it. Do we find additional, another idea here. Do we find additional pages of the diary of Haggis? Do we find notes? Something to explain the true situation behind it? I think so. We can, easily enough, have additional content there that makes it interesting for the players and rewards them for exploring, talking to the NPCs. Let's slowly tease out the story, or let's slowly explain, you know, his wife got really sick, something happened, the town got, you know, dropped at the bottom of the ocean, and we've been stuck here since, and bloop, back to under control. I'm so happy to be here. Everything's normal and wonderful. Cool. So now you can introduce a fight. We'll put that possibility, again, based on time. Remember that new GMs out there, try to keep, depending on how long you've agreed with your party, but one shot tends to be, especially for newer players, 3.5 hours is really the sweet spot. You can go longer if they're really invested in it, but for first-time players, it can be a little bit much. So 2.5, 3.5 hours is generally okay. Gives you a little bit of time to hit all the elements. We can have undead Spirit City Watch that engages the players if you need a fight. That's a thing. That's an option. Like, allow yourself to have options. And then eventually, you know, Haggis the Menace has got to show up. Haggis the Menace needs to be there, right? He's the guy. He's the dude. So we want Haggis the Menace as a tragic figure, right? Haggis the Menace is not a bad guy. But Haggis the Menace is not going to let go of this. This is the only way that he can spend life with his ghost love, right? With, what do we call it? Senta. So he is not willing to give up on this. So how do we engage in this fight? What is it? Is this a fight? Is it a stage? Is it a multi-stage fight? Is it a social encounter? I think yes to all those things. All of these are valid options, right? If we want to build something that's cool. So we can have okay, so let's actually name our guy, because Haggis is no longer good. HG. What does H stand for? Let me look at my list of names. Maybe I have a cool in there, unless chat has suggestions. Ooh, I have an H. This is a little bit like sort of Greek theme. This could be this area. Okay, this whole area could have like a sort of Greek vibe to it if we start going with these names. Heraklinos, kind of like it. Let's go. Let's call him Heraklinos. Real name. It's not Haggis, but it's Heraklinos. Heraklinos what? Heraklinos. Gristio. There, done. Named. Heraklinos, whatever you want to call him. Gristio. Okay. So Heraklinos doesn't want to give up. He is wanting to spend. I don't need this around. What the hell am I doing? Something's bothering me. I don't know why. Only took me an hour to figure it out. Okay, good job today. We're not there. So Heraklinos doesn't want to give up. And maybe his wife, the spirit of his wife, doesn't realize what's going on. So we can... How do the players win? Well, the players win by sending these individuals all on past their undead life. They all want to move on to their afterlife, right? Like that's their goal. So maybe when they break the undead spirit control, he says, I just want to move on and be with my family. What is this? This is not a life. This is an unlife. It's misery. It's miserable. How do they achieve that? They could either kill Heraklinos, or they could destroy the bell that he uses to keep the city alive down here. Right? I think these are two valid options. So if they want to destroy the bell, then Heraklinos is trying to protect it. That could be a fight, right? You need to do X amount of damage and X amount of... Or it's maybe not that amount of time, but just you need to do so much damage to the bell before it breaks. And Heraklinos... you know, gives up at that point, or maybe he just goes into a fury as everything around begins to disappear. Or they could kill Heraklinos, and as they fight him, his control over the people around begins to wane, and he gets progressively angrier as everybody around him tells him, you need to let go, this is not right. That could be sort of the progression, right? So the fight starts... Let's say they have two options, right? Like, I think these are generally the two options that could be. But let's build a fight around that idea as a final fight. R and Wizard, if you guys have any ideas, I'm happy to hear if you have like a cool concept for a fight here. If you're still in chat, that is. I don't know if you left. But if you're here, I'll give you guys a minute to chip in with something. Jonas, I see you in chat too. Don't think you can hide. So many bots, dude. So many bots. I'm here, but I have no ideas. Okay, well, does it sound... The Vile Ghost of Thomas the Tank Engine. Nice. Love it. Love it. Okay, so, Jonas, I appreciate the input. Let's just say, I'm probably not going to use Thomas the Tank Engine that's going to show up. I want to be useful. What does he sound? I can't remember. It's a British show, right? Hello, it's me, Thomas, the Tank Engine. I've come to run over all of you. Toot toot. I'm useful. Alright, so not Thomas. Or maybe the bell deals damage per round. Cool, yes. You know what? Let's have that. I think that's brilliant. I like the idea that it's sort of a... As long as the bell is up... Okay, let's do it this way. Maybe we need to tie them together. The more damage the bell takes, it reflects the damage on Heraklinos, and the more damage Heraklinos takes, the more damage the bell takes. So it's sort of a situation where they have to deal with one or the other, or while they deal with one, they deal with the other, but then it's two things that they're kind of fighting. So every time they hit him, or he can use the bell to amplify his spells. I don't need to get specifically into like the nitty-gritty numbers of it, but the mechanics are kind of cool. So, so the bell and Heraklinos are part of the fight. As Her takes damage, the bell breaks, or as the bell takes damage, Herak takes also suffers some of it. His control is tied to the bell being in tip-top shape. So maybe he gets progressively, right, more desperate, and the ghosts that are under his control begin to switch sides, right? Like, or begin to cheer on the players, whatever. Ultimately, what we want, I think, is that the moment where he stops and gives up, perhaps, exactly, is the Senta thing. She needs to play a role here, right? She needs to show up. So either she's by his side, and at first she's like, what are these men doing? Oh my goodness. Oh no. And then as he loses control, or as he's being beat up, or as the bell is breaking, her memory comes back and she realizes what's happened. I think that might be the play, right? And as soon as she starts, like, sort of regaining her memory, she can play a role in the fight. She can end the fight, or he can... something like that, where he doesn't give up. And they can choose at one point. So the fight can end... Oh, let's give it a third outcome. The bell breaks, Heraklinos dies, or... they realize that once, you know, it feels right, we can give some arbitrary number, or when the story feels right, Senta has broke enough out of the control of Heraklinos, or of this mockery of life, and she can convince him to just willingly give it up. And maybe she's the one who says, I don't want this. Right? So that could be like the third, more peaceful option, and then if that's achieved, you know, that's like a everybody wins alternate outcome. Alternatively, I guess your point could be that they find Senta somewhere. But if she's there, or maybe they can convince her of what's happening. And if that's the case, and she shows up from the beginning of the fight, perhaps there's a way for a mechanical advantage for her to be there. She can, like, perhaps she acts as... she grants this advantage to Heraklinos every once in a while when she makes a pitch to say, you know, no, this is not right. I don't want to be here. This is madness. You can't control me. Heraklinos, I love you, but this is not it's not a life for us. So that could work as well, but let's add that idea in there. So ultimately, Senta can either be found. All right, so I'll have to fix that somewhere, but Senta can be found and can help players. Or as Heraklinos' control wanes, she remembers more and more, and eventually convinces him to give up. And maybe there the players can roll some advantage or some persuasion check, something where it's not just the DM playing with themselves. And success or failure can be determined by the fates. You can give advantage, you can roll a d100, they can assist, some kind of mechanical way, I think. Cool. So there's our story. Did we miss anything? So let's revisit this, or let's do a quick recap just to make sure we have this right. So the prompt is Based on a real-life news story that in England, a town sank to the bottom of the sea. Legends around it in the 1300s. Legends around it say that during storms, you can still hear the bell echoing in the waves. So we took that and we tried to D&Dify it. So we came up with the town. We just changed the letters around. So let's run through the scenario one more time to see if we have anything that's egregiously stupid. The town of Agat, a nearby fishing town harbor, or nearby fishing town, has hired adventurers because they wish to build a lighthouse, and the ideal spot for that lighthouse is where this old town used to be. But due to the legends and scariness of it, nobody's taken on the job of going there to build a lighthouse. Or maybe they've sent people to build the lighthouse and they've run away terrified of the noises that they've heard and the things that they've seen late at night. The players head out. And as they arrive on the shore, they see these gravestones that are littering the beach. One of the gravestones in particular is up to your choice, GMs, either completely clean or the one that's covered in mother of pearl corals that is just beautiful and it looks like it's a shrine to that one gravestone. There they get a hint of the name of the person, the gravestone of Serta. There's either a poem there or there's something that says my guiding bell. And nearby on the shores there's a shipwreck, which I've been calling a ship corpse for whatever reason, and there's also the ruins remnants of an old church building. If they investigate the shipwreck, they find the bodies of drowned sailors. The drowned sailors, because this is D&D, can come to life. Where are we here? So we can use the drowned ascetic, the drowned master, the drowned assassin stat blocks from Ghosts of Saltmarsh if you have it. If you don't, I'm unfortunately not allowed, I think, to post it because it's not part of the SRD, but just know that there's a stat block that exists that would be fitting. And as they come to life, they can speak. So the guy's name initially was Haggis. Let's rename this to Heraklinos. They can speak on his behalf, or they can have memories that are not theirs, or what they saw, to relate some information to the players. Alternatively, if they go to the ruins, and they can be the ruins of a church of one of your players, they go in there, they find the pages of a diary or of a letter written by Heraklinos, castigating the gods that have banished him to such a fate. The storm begins rolling in, and they can hear this sort of pealing noise coming from beneath their feet. And it sounds like a dull bell. Maybe there is something to this mystery after all. Assuming you've done your job, you've given your players potions of water breathing, cloaks of the manta ray, whatever tool is necessary for them to actually do the adventure. They venture deep into the ocean, the waters, and there they encounter. So we found a map that was courtesy of, I'm going to say this name right, Zatnikotel, maybe. And you can describe it as a living city underwater. There's bioluminescent fungi, corals, maybe fish of a kind that light up the area, so we don't necessarily have to deal with darkness issues. And as they investigate the town, you can introduce some cool NPCs, bards, otherwise they just spend time as if they were their real life. So very much think of WandaVision for anyone that came in late. And that's sort of the situation that they're running in. So if no fight has happened, again, give yourself permission. There could be the old city watch of what did we call the town? Witchhund. The old city card of Witchhund shows up under the control of Heraklinos, or seeing outsiders that look threatening and engaged. There could be a fight there to break sort of the exploration sort of mantra that's been going on. And as they investigate, they can discover either more pages of the diary, they can talk to other NPCs and find out, like, engage in role-playing, so hit the other pillars other than just combat. And eventually, Heraklinos makes himself, or they discover the truth, right, through talking to NPCs and stuff, add diary elements, maybe they meet Serta and she kind of talks and they're confused about what's happened, and maybe she reveals, oh, I don't understand, this doesn't make sense. If they break the control of Heraklinos over one of the undead, it just tells them everything it knows in a panic before being taken away, their minds being taken away again. And eventually, they have to destroy either Heraklinos or the bell, or both, to break away the control that he has over the city. And if they do so, or if they get Serta to be on their team and convince him that this is not a life for them and he should let go and move on to the afterlife with all of them, then there's our success story. So I always like to leave. I think that story makes sense, right? Like anybody in chat that thinks the story is garbage and doesn't make sense, or doesn't listen to the prompt, let me know. This is your chance. Or forever hold your peace. And I'm going to assume that this is the greatest story that you've ever seen in your life. Okay, we're going to go once, twice, 3 times, because there's a bit of a delay, I suppose. Nice. All right, with the Scotty emote. So I would play that. I think that's fun, right? From a player point of view, I think that's kind of fun. It's thematic. It probably fits in a one-shot well enough. It could be a mini arc to either go purify some temple that's been sitting underwater that's been taken over by the angry spirit of Haggis the Menace of Heraklinos. So how do we tie this? So we want to make sure that we've resolved the initial problem, which we have. We've cleared the town, or the undead town, of the power of this sea hag man guy. Now let's pretend that your players are like, this was the bee's knees. Oh my god, I love this so much. That was great. And we keep going. So how do we add complications and follow-up sessions? Fairly easily here, I think. One of the final pleas that Heraklinos can make as he's dying or as he's convinced to let go, he wants revenge on the Jinn. Because the Jinn is the one who tricked him early on, right? We can bring that back. Alternatively, if you free him, if you free Heraklinos and this entire city, maybe the Jinn is pissed with you. And the Jinn makes a showing. Maybe it's a merit, maybe it's some evil spirit is like, I was using them for XYZ reason. You can come up with something. And now the Jinn has sworn revenge on them undoing his plot that was super important for whatever reason. Right? So we can add those elements. We can also add some other like doohickey or MacGuffin that was in the shipwreck that could be interesting. We could add something after they clear the bell, that some deeper mystery in the town reveals itself easily enough, right? It doesn't have to just end here. So we can add meat and hooks at the end. Maybe if we, if we brought in the cleric of Tyr or the cleric of Corlon or some kind of god that showed up, Yondala, Bismar, whatever god you want to have here. And if they try to purify it, then when it does, it reveals a deeper rot, a deeper mystery, or the god reveals itself, gives a boon and says, hey, I need you to do X, Y, and Z. Because this is one of the first of 3 or 4 temples in the area that need helping. Or if you delve deeper, there is a greater pain here. Or track down the Jinn that did this because he's a dickwad and that's not okay. So easily enough, this one shot can turn into more. I don't think it's all that hard to add stuff here. So bear in mind that I'll be taking this this one shot. I'll be typing it up. I posted to Adventure a Week, the Adventure a Week subreddit, which I can post here. I will do that. Give me a second to find the link. I think it's also in the in my information on Twitch. Let me put it in chat for anyone who might be here who cares and wants to go take a look. Yeah, I think that story makes sense. So figuring out the level range, I think this is probably appropriate for levels 5 through 7, or more if you want. It's probably a little hard for lower levels. You can, but I would suggest maybe 5 through 7, or you could even go up to 10 if you want to really amp up what the creatures can do. I wouldn't necessarily go above that because then it starts getting much harder to make it, the power spikes are significant at that point. You could probably still make it work, but if you want to keep it reasonable and in one shot, maybe 5 through 7 is going to be your sweet spot. I'll put the map that I found on Reddit as well for anyone who wants to go look, and I'll put it in the description link in the YouTube video. The monsters we can figure out, so a Sea Hag stat block is probably best for Mr. Heraklinos. We can use ghosts and or use City Watch stat blocks, amp them up a bit, a veteran, a thug, and just make them as undead. That'll probably work well enough. Specifics in terms of time, I think, so let's revisit this, like just to think out loud. So the initial part, if we start in the town of Agat, there's going to be some roleplays and descriptions. If we want to have a bard show up and recite a poem, we can. Players introducing themselves, describing the character and that sort of thing. So expect 20-25 minutes and sort of that block here at the beginning. Once they arrive to the beach and they start making their choices, whether it's a fight or not. So if it's a fight, it's going to take a little bit longer. So this can easily be like another 30 minutes. So we're an hour in. If they don't choose the fight and you have the ruin sort of situation, I mean, if you want to shoehorn a fight in here, you can. They come into the ruins, they pick the letter, some kind of protective, angry spirit of the area arises and says, "How dare you intrude upon the house of Tyr? This is not a place for outsiders. Run, flee!" And you can have a fight, so you can make that 30 minutes if you want to. But you don't have to shoehorn a fight here. The storm is rolling in early, they come down. If you didn't have a fight at this point, you can have it later with the city guard if you feel like it. But here you're going to have a significant amount of exploration, investigation, and roleplay, right? There's not necessarily a ton of combat here. You can have the city watch engage if you didn't have it here, I suppose. So we'd be an hour in. This is another 40, an hour 45, maybe 2 hours. And then, maybe we do need this fight if we want to hit the 3.5 hour mark. Play it by ear, but allow yourself like some leeway. Have this little sneaky fight with the city guard show up if you want to fill out the full 3 hours. And then the fight with Heraklinos needs to be like a solid 30-minute fight with cinematics, the bell going. Every time he hits the bell, some kind of cool magical effect happens that lengthens the fight, reinvigorates him, something like that. I think those are all decent ideas. That makes sense to me. Anybody else? Anything else I'm missing? The map, the timing. I think we hit the 3 hour mark pretty well. We have sort of a multi-stage fight, right? He gets progressively angrier and more dangerous as the bell is breaking down and the spirits come in and try to convince him. But that's a cool visual, right? Like he's standing in the middle, fighting off the players. There's now a circle of undead villagers who are calling for him to let go, and they were speaking in one voice. Let go, we want to move on. It's creepy, it's thematic, it's cool. Is there a piece of music we can play? Remember, you're not streaming this on Twitch or on YouTube. Your audience is yours, so you're not going to get DMCA'd. So one of the pieces of music I like that's pretty cool can be The Witcher 3 has some really cool combat music. For underwater, what's cool underwater music for exploration time? I don't know. Is there something that... Does Subnautica have good underwater music? It's a whole game based around that. Maybe look at that as like sort of that piece. Or the town or investigating the graveyard, probably look for some Waldruna, Jaws, yeah, was there boodum 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 bleep. And there's hello, it's me, the bad guy. That's how I do my bad guy voices, by the way. They all sound like this. Thematically, let's get the sense and feel of the place. We could be, so if you want to borrow from real life settings, we could easily have, like, I'm thinking Dubrovnik could be kind of cool. That's where they shot the Game of Thrones, like, Red Keep kind of situation. Kind of nice. But otherwise, I'm thinking, like, Greece. Coastline of Greece, for some reason, kind of sounds right. Just sunken areas. It's paradise in one section, but as soon as the storm rolls in, it starts getting really creepy, and with the naming convention, we can change the name of the town to something more Greek, if we wanted to, like Arathrios or, whatever. Just look up some Greek cities and name it that. Bloodborne music always works. I've literally never played Bloodborne, but thank you, that's also a suggestion. So, you have a lot of options to pick. I think the story makes sense. I think we're in a good place. I think we've respected the constraints of the prompt. Cool. I'm happy with it. Hopefully somebody can do something with this. You can feel free to use it in your games at home. It is the world is your oyster. I'm doing this for you to use. Reminder that we have a stream. I think tonight is a variety stream. We might be doing some Among Us. If any of you in chat want to play Among Us with me tonight, I think that's the goal. Monday night is stream night for variety. So Among Us, we might do Words on stream. We might do GeoGuessr Battle Royale if people want to do that as well. That's a lot of fun. Otherwise, if it's just lonely me, I might play some Skull, might play some GeoGuessr by myself because it's always fun. But if anybody wants to join, I start this stream. It's a bit late for my European friends for sure. But otherwise, I think I start my stream at 10 and I go till about midnight or a little bit past sometimes, and we can do that. Otherwise, I'm back on Wednesday with D&D Prep Wednesday and Theme Wednesday, and then Friday, I think we're going to change the format of Friday. Friday is going to be developing exploration content. So these will be handouts that you can give your players, templates to use for like infernal contracts, diary templates, things that you can just have ready for players they can discover. Some ideas around that, because I think it's a bit of a struggle for everyone. Yeah, I know, Europeans, lol. Cool, that's it for me for now. If you want to join me later tonight, I'd love to see you. And if nobody, oh, I have a draft token too. I could always do some magic, I suppose, and go 0-3 and just piss it away and be really upset about everything. Also a possibility. Anyhow, thanks for joining me. I'll be trimming this video, putting it on YouTube, and then creating the content on Adventure a Week subreddit. Thanks everyone. Have a good rest of your day. Bye!